Hello, my name is Jim. This is my podcast, The Bloody Vegans. You're very welcome to it. Each week I'll be travelling ever deeper into the world of veganism, discovering along the way a multitude of viewpoints from the political and ethical to the practical. I'll be doing this through a series of conversations, each aiming to further illuminate my understanding and hopefully yours of all things plant-centric. In this week's episode 5, I'll be speaking with Celine Lee, the owner of Cocolico Patisserie, a UK-based patisserie company which is all plant-based. Celine trained in Paris in a kind of non-vegan patisserie world. This was pre-moving to a vegan lifestyle back in 2016. And when she moved to the UK, she made the switch to a plant-based patisserie company. I hope you enjoy the conversation. This is me and Celine Lee. My first kind of question I'd love to get into a little bit with you is like where you not necessarily started your vegan journey, but where did you start becoming like a patissier? Where did you start?
Oh, wow. It goes back a few years ago. So I wasn't supposed to be a pastry chef initially. After I graduated from my A-levels in France, I was supposed to be a nurse. So I went to nurse school for nearly 3 years. And basically I quit a few months before the degree because I didn't like it. I mean, I didn't feel like it was meant for me.
Sure. And
I told my family that all I want to do is cooking. I want to be in catering. Right. So after that, I joined a catering school for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I wasn't supported straight away by my family because, you know, as you can see, I'm Asian. Yeah. And in Asian family, they are very familiar with catering.
Sure.
So they always thought, that it would be too exhausting for me and I should carry on doing something else that is more rewarding in terms of, money. Basically.
Yeah, right.
But I really enjoyed my catering school, and mostly I fell in love with pastry.
Right.
So after I graduated from the catering school, I worked in pastry shops, basically.
Sure.
And also some Michelin stars. So this is where I got the discipline and the detail for cake.
And I'm imagining, so like in France, it was in Paris, right?
Yes.
So it's an incredibly competitive market, is it, like the pastry chef kind of world?
Yes. Yeah, well, in France, we are known for being the best pastry chefs in the world.
Yeah.
But I never liked those stars, I wasn't fit to be in this how to say, this area, because it takes a lot of courage.
Right.
And work to be kept at the top.
Yeah.
So I have some experience in those Michelin stars, but it's really hard. Have you seen at the TV when chefs are crying in the toilet? It's a real story.
Yeah.
So, but I knew that I needed to get those skills first, but I just carry on working from places to places.
Yeah.
I didn't only do Michelin stars. I did a few patisserie like shops as well.
Yeah, sure.
And I was more like into small businesses, where I could really dig into my creativity.
Okay.
If it makes sense. Yeah. Because when you work in those Michelin stars, for example, you only do like small jobs repeatedly, and you don't really see where it will carry you.
Sure. And do you, I suppose in the bigger places, do you not have quite as much contact with the kind of like the end product, the person who's kind of enjoying it? So do you not get that instant feedback quite as much? Or
no. Well, when you're at the bottom of the, how do you say, like, when
the ladder, if you like.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. You don't get any rewarding or feedback.
Yeah.
you just get like yelled at, and that's it.
Right.
You just have to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the best part of being today my own boss, if I may say, because like it's very rewarding.
Yeah.
And some people are just not meant to be in a hierarchy, you know.
Yes. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
So how long was the process of like from like dropping out of kind of the world of medicine and moving into to becoming like a fully trained pastry chef? How long was that process? Was that a couple of years, or how long?
Well, so when I quit the nurse school, I joined the catering school like maybe 3 months later. And the catering school is 3 years.
Right.
And it was, I think I graduated in 2011.
Okay. Yeah.
So basically I can say I have 10 years of experience.
Sure.
But also I'm also self-taught as well.
Okay.
Mostly because now I do plant-based. So this is not the kind of training that you get in France.
No. Well, that I'm absolutely fascinated with. So at what point did you decide? Were you weren't vegan at the beginning of this journey?
No. I only went vegan when I was in UK.
Okay.
So my last job in France, in Paris, I was actually working as a chef.
Sure.
So I was alone in the kitchen. It was a place called Maison Bon. The place has closed down since, but I was alone in the kitchen, and every day I had to prep the meal of the day, some soup, some salads, and also some desserts. And it was, I think it was in 2015, and this place was gluten-free and mostly vegetarian.
Okay.
So it kind of interested me.
Yeah.
And because every day I had to create something different based on vegetable.
So at first it felt like a challenge as a chef.
Yes, very challenging. Yeah. And because, I wasn't a very vegetable eater.
Yeah.
So for me, it was very challenging. And I just discovered a lot of vegetable that I wouldn't eat before. Like, just to be silly, but cauliflower, I used to hate it, but now it's my favorite vegetable because there's so many things you can do with a cauliflower. Yeah. So yeah, I was basically a vegetarian chef.
Sure.
But it goes beyond that. When every day you go to work and you have to work with your brain and create some delicious dishes with plants, you kind of do your own research as well. So I was researching on the vegetarian lifestyle, and then got into watching some documentaries about in Netflix. They're very good for that.
Yeah, they are.
I think the first show I've seen was Cowspiracy.
Yep.
And but there's one more very important thing that happened at the same moment when I was working. Sure. I found out that I was lactose intolerant.
Oh, okay.
And because there was a time I couldn't move my wrists.
Right.
So I went to see a neurologist.
Sure.
And he basically told me that I was dairy free.
Right.
Because apparently Asian, from when they're reach a certain age, they can't digest lactose anymore.
Okay.
And for me, I was like, really?
Yeah.
So it all started from that.
Right.
Okay.
So like it was starting to kind of almost piece itself together.
Yeah. Like so many things made sense.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. But in a way, as a pastry chef trained, it's hard to think of giving up milk, basically. First, as a girl having grown up in France, I've eaten not soy milk, but dairy all my teenage life.
Yeah, sure.
And then my knowledge of pastry is with milk and butter and eggs and all the things, it's not vegan.
Pretty integral, isn't it? To that.
So suddenly I had to question myself about me, basically, and what I can eat. And because, I'm very fond of food in general. So it moves you a lot.
Yeah.
You know? And but yeah, after doing those research and watching those documentaries, it was just I felt something, you know.
Yeah.
It started to move, but I still wasn't vegan or vegetarian. It was because in France it's really hard to.
Yeah.
But not only just in France, even like as myself, as the way I've been educated, your family and the culture is so. I didn't. Also, I believe that we don't have all the same compassion for animals.
Yeah.
You know, like you can show the same movie to some people, and I'm pretty sure some people won't care. So it's not, and you can't blame them. Obviously, for me, I care, but
yeah, sure.
But I can't blame the other people who don't. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's only when I moved to UK that because in UK we are much more aware about animal welfare.
Yeah.
And for me, it was easier to move past the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you have to essentially kind of reteach yourself everything you'd learned before?
Yes.
As a pastry chef?
Like, oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Like, but it wasn't as difficult as you can think of, because dairy, I think, is the most easiest thing to substitute.
Okay.
That's. I mean, it's much more difficult to substitute eggs than dairy, because dairy you have so many options: oat, coconut, soya.
Yeah.
And but also I was very familiar with soy milk from the beginning, because my dad used to make his own soy milk, and it was the only milk. It was the only soy milk that I could drink.
Yeah.
And he used to make it, in small batches, and I used to go and sell it.
Yeah.
So it was funny. But yeah, soy milk is like the best milk to use in cakes. I mean, for what I do.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Okay. And how about eggs? Like
eggs?
How do you substitute?
It takes a lot of research as well.
Yeah.
But for example, in Asian culture and food, we don't eat many dairy or eggs. A lot of meat, but there's a lot of dessert that are mostly based on fruits.
Right, yeah, sure.
And so there's this agar, the powder that comes from seaweed, like a plant-based gelatin. And I remember using this agar powder to make like coconut custard, like a dessert.
Yeah.
And I found out that you could make a lot of dessert based with this powder.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's how I came up with the custard tart.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. It's amazing. It must. It just feels like it must have been. Yeah, incredibly difficult to transition, but like the way you describe it sounds like it was relatively easy.
Yeah, but for example, just a recipe as simple as pancakes. You would think that pancakes without eggs is impossible, but if you do, if you do just flour, a bit of baking powder, sugar,
sure.
and plant-based milk, it works just fine.
Like,
so many things they don't need egg in the first place.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense. Have you kept in contact with any of your old kind of connections from the world of like Parisian pastry sort of chefing?
Yes.
And how have they felt about your transition? Have some of them come along with you, or are they not so kind of receptive?
Well, so it's funny that you ask, because I've been in this Facebook group. It's called translated. It means pastry chefs in the world.
Yeah.
And I've been on this group for I don't know, many years.
Yeah, sure.
But like you're in a group, but you don't really post. You just read the feed.
Yeah.
And lately, I think it was this year, I found there was many chefs doing interested in vegan recipes, because obviously, you know, some of them are business owners, or they have a shop, or they work in a high-end place, and there was more and more interest in veganism, vegan dessert, and how even like there's the World Cup of pastry, they have they had to do a vegan dessert. So there's more and more interest. And so a few months ago, I decided that I had to introduce myself and say, hey, I'm on this group for about, 5 years. I just want to say that I'm a pastry chef, and here's what I do and my pictures. And some of them were like, wow, that's really impressive. And good luck and congratulations. Like I always define myself as a I'm not a 3-star pastry chef. You know, I prefer to be closer to the customers, and I want my cakes to be accessible to anyone.
Sure.
You know, so my cakes will never be like, you know, sculptures of sugars and golden dust, or like it's not glitter to your eyes. But what I do is somehow comforting, and it means something, you know. And those pastry chefs, they just replied saying, don't say that. I mean, you are talented, and you obviously are passionate about what you do, and and we can see that. So it was kind of like rewarding for me to,
I bet. Almost like validation.
Exactly, validation from my how do you say, fellows,
your peers in that kind of that world.
So I was that's, you know, I was happy.
Absolutely. So when you moved over here, you've done all this training. At what point did you think, do you know what, I'm gonna run my own business, I'm gonna turn my passion for kind of plant-based foods and you know, beautiful patisserie, I'm going to turn that into a business?
Well, that was, so I arrived in UK in 2016. Basically, I remember it always because we moved here since the day after you guys voted Brexit. But
don't include me in that. I definitely didn't.
I see you British, you know.
No, I know what you mean.
But so my first job in Reading was I was head baker in Nibsies. It's the gluten-free
I know
coffee shop in town centre, and you know, so she the owner, she has her recipe which are great, but I kept seeing like demand for vegan, and even me at some point I just wanted to experiment on vegan baking, but the thing that got me to change was when I turned 30.
Right.
You know, when I turned 30, I was like, I need to do something with my life.
Sure.
And my partner is also one of the reasons that I can do it, because like he has a full-time job, he works in IT, so he supports me financially. But he always pushed me to do what I want. Like, aren't you tired to work for other people? Like you need to do something that you really like.
Yeah, sure.
And also in UK, there's something that is very different from France. In UK, you are allowed to run a food business from home.
Yeah.
And this is forbidden in France.
Oh, really?
So I was like, okay. I'm going to try. So I just... and Cocolico is just... It was... my nickname on social media.
Oh, okay.
And it just sounds catchy, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
It could have been Celine's cake, but Cocolico sounds more, it's more catchy and it kind of suits me. So.
Yeah. And did you find it difficult to kind of make a name for yourself within the kind of local vegan community, or was that kind of quite easy? I got
really lucky because as soon as I created my business, it was in February 2018. In March, there was the first vegan market of Reading.
Sure.
And I just got a stall there. And like, I remember because it was the 29th of March. And I remember I sold out like in 3 hours. And that was amazing. And this got me into the vegan community already.
Sure.
And because it was like a monthly market, I got, more and more known in the area.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I need more. I want to travel in UK. So I found a way to do vegan festivals, So I used to like to go to Birmingham, Portsmouth, Southampton, everywhere, basically. Because I want to bring this piece of happiness to people.
Yeah. So do you find like, particularly when you're doing kind of like markets and kind of festivals and things that are kind of quite accessible to people perhaps who aren't necessarily vegan, do you find they respond really well to kind of like, patisserie and the kind of cakes? I'd imagine it's quite a really nice entry point for people who are non-vegan, who kind of feel like, well, these are the kind of things that I wouldn't be able to eat. And so it's kind of like, oh, wow, that's amazing. I can eat. Do you find you get a lot of non-vegan customers?
I do have a lot of non-vegan customers because my chance is that not only I touch the vegan community, but also the French community.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And in Reading particularly, we don't have any pastry shop.
Yes.
And in France, it's a very common thing. You have a bakery everywhere. Like anywhere you can go and buy a piece of bread or a custard tart. Custard tart is literally the thing that you eat every day in France.
Yeah.
So I had this chance because most of my customers who are not vegan are actually French.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
So it's like a sort of comfort food for them.
Yes. They're like, oh my God, I've never had a croissant for like ages, or like a custard tart or a macaron or anything, that because they say it's nice. We love cookie, we love brownies, but it's nice to have something a bit more special.
Yeah. Yeah. Like home from home kind of thing.
So like I like the compliments I get. Like it's like, we don't come to you because it's vegan. We come to you because it's just so good.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you find it's provoked some conversations with those people perhaps who aren't vegan, have come to you because they like the French patisserie side?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I've got a really good response when I do a vegan market.
Sure.
Because in a vegan market, people know that it's vegan.
Yeah.
Or some they still ask, but I remember when I used to do also. I still do non-vegan markets, like regulars.
Yeah.
And they are a bit put off by the word vegan or plant-based.
Yes.
Still, still a lot of people.
There's a stigma around
yes.
it.
Like because I've been in this community for let's say 3 years now.
Yeah.
For me, it's kind of natural. It becomes natural, but we still forget that vegans are only a minority of the population. Like I was listening to a documentary this morning before you came, and it was the meeting between the best butcher of France and a lady who's vegan.
Right.
But at some point in the show, they said that only 2% of French population are vegetarian.
Wow. Vegetarian?
Yes.
Not even vegan.
I mean, veggie, that basically they
Yeah.
don't eat meat. And I think in UK, we're more like 8%.
Yeah.
If I don't know for sure.
Even that's tiny though, isn't it?
That's really tiny.
Yeah.
But I really try to accommodate everyone. I'm a feeder, so I want to feed everybody.
Yeah. And what do you find like for the kind of the British markets, probably the most popular thing? What's the kind of go-to?
You mean what's their favorite cake?
Yeah.
Well, what's your favorite cake?
Well, custard tart by a million
honestly,
miles.
the custard tart is my bestseller.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what's about it. It's just like easy. It looks good. And even if I try to hide it, like so people don't go to it, they still see it and say, I want a piece of that. Probably because it's one of the things that you think you will never be able to have.
Yes.
Some people they're like, oh my God, it looks like, it tastes like those Portuguese tarts, the pastéis de nata.
Yeah.
And that, by the way, I can make. But yeah, because the taste is very eggy. And the texture, and also I use some real vanilla inside, and that's what makes it really good.
Yeah.
Macaron as well. They do really well because you can't find vegan macaron. Like it's a very French thing, okay?
Yeah.
But vegan macaron are so tricky to make. Even I, like after 2 years, I still can't make them right sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's probably custard tart and macaron.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they are is what is my two best sellers at the markets.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And have you seen over the last kind of two plus years that you've been in business, kind of have you seen much kind of competition in that space as kind of not necessarily directly French patisserie? I imagine that's fair, so you're still really unique in that space. But the kind of vegan desserts, have you seen that kind of growing like exponentially over the last kind of couple of years?
Honestly, no. I mean, I'm sure they are. I can't say that I'm the only one because that's not true. But I've never met another stall trying with me at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's why it gives me confidence in my products. Like going to a festival, like when I did Veg Fest, I was confident because I was like, I'm the only French patisserie. So like I know my product is quite unique. Yeah. And it's good. I believe in it. So yeah. But in terms of competition, I haven't tried any other patisserie. I mean, I've tried a lot of brownies and cakes.
Yeah, there's lots of that, I suppose.
Yeah, there's a lot. And some are really, really good because sometimes I just want a brownie as well. Yeah, so, and I can't even make a brownie. Like, honestly, I've tried dozens of recipes.
Really?
And I can't make a brownie. I know. So, yeah, I know. But I'm happy for competition, because for me it's not competition. If they do vegan patisserie, it means that we are more. It's for the good cause. Yeah. I mean, and it means I got to try. Yeah. It means I got to eat and I don't have to bake.
yeah, exactly. And like you say, ultimately it means that it's growing. That the communities,
yes, of course,
the community is getting bigger.
Yeah,
and that's
I don't see them as competition. It's like we are all in the same boat. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same message ultimately. Even though we come at it from different angles, ultimately we want the same the same end of we want to get to a vegan world, if you like. So VegFest, is that one of the bigger events that you've done?
Yes, I've done 2 really big events for me this year. So the first one was Vegan Life Live.
Okay.
In Alexandra Palace, London, and the second one was VegFest last month. Yeah. Olympia.
And when you've got an event of that scale, what does that entail for you?
Oh my god! Oh my god! So first of all, a lot of money.
Yeah, I'll
because
bet.
It costs a lot to be exhibitor there.
Does it? Okay, right. Yes. Just the cost of getting the spot.
Just the pitch fee is like really, really high. Like, okay, right. Like I would say a lot of businesses couldn't afford to do that. Okay. And mostly for me, it was a lot of mental prep because I'm alone doing everything. Yeah. Okay. Obviously, I have my partner who helps me all the time. When we have to drive, he drives, so I can just focus. But he drives me and he helps me selling all the festivals or the markets, because when we have a queue, you have to serve the people. But yeah, VegFest was months of mental prep. Okay, and just prep also how to build the most beautiful stall, because it's all about attracting with the eye. and making them coming back for more because it's good.
And I imagine it's competitive. There's a lot of sweet stuff going on at
There's
these
a lot.
events.
There's a lot of cake,
Yeah.
honestly, and every stall is prettier than the other. So it's not only the pitch, but you have all the expense that are linked to social media or marketing, designing, branding. I just remember, for example, for VegFest, I had those walls for exhibitors, and most people, they put some banners,
Sure.
but I had printed those pictures of my cakes, like high quality, and to stick on the walls, and it looks really cute.
Very nice.
But there's so much to think about, and also a lot of cakes to do, basically. Yeah, because it's 2 days in a row. So on the Saturday, we were so busy all day. We had a queue. We didn't have break until 4 p.m. But we came home and I had to bake more for the Sunday.
Wow.
So I didn't sleep for like a week because I was too stressed.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of work.
And I imagine for you specifically, like you're not kind of making a big batch of like, it's not a massive tray bake. There's a lot of finite detail that goes into your cakes.
Yes.
So like the prep time, I imagine just on the cakes alone must be colossal for an event like that, right?
It's crazy. Like honestly, like I told you, I didn't sleep.
Still recovering now, I'd imagine.
Yes. No, but it was good. It was a great experience and good. I hope good exposure. I'm happy to have done it because, like, even for me, the challenge is huge.
Yeah.
It's like now I can say, oh, I've done it. And it's not something like it's not, like I can say I'm proud to have done it because it's not a small festival.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you find these kind of events like lead to, I don't know, weddings, birthdays, stuff like that? Do people want you to kind of like
a lot of people they ask me either to cater for weddings or birthday or if I deliver, but a lot of people are restaurant owners.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
So they ask if I can wholesale, basically. Or some of them, they would ask me if I can teach them as well.
Are those areas that you're kind of interested in? Do you think wholesaling and teaching and stuff?
Wholesaling at the moment, not really, because the thing is when I do events that are not really local, like London is not that far, but it's not, I can't say it's local.
Not around the corner kind of
yes,
thing. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
It will be difficult for me to deliver to London, for example.
Yeah.
But I go to London all the time, so there's some ways we can, like sort thing out. But I already started to teach people. I have taught some 2 girls, teenage girl, to do like a 3-course menu. So I went to their home, and we spent 3 hours doing a 3-course menu with starter, main course, and dessert. And I have also taught a lady to like 2 hours of pastry, like only focused on patisserie.
Yeah.
So, and it's something that I'm starting to offer because there's a lot of demand. And also it's nice to see that parents want their kids involved and educated in this plant-based lifestyle.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. I can imagine there would be a kind of like, you're kind of almost a bit of a pioneer in this space. Like you've kind of like you described, you've been brought up in the world of kind of patisserie and then have had to develop this kind of almost not new method almost, or a switch of methodology. So I'd imagine there's probably not many places where you could learn to be a sort of plant-based patissier.
I'm pretty sure there are, but I can't tell you where.
No, they're not obvious.
No, I don't.
That's really cool. So what's the future for the business? Where would you like it to kind of take you?
I've told you that I used to do festivals in all UK, partly because I like to travel. So, going to, let's say, Brighton was a way for me to also spend a night in an Airbnb and visit Brighton. And I loved it. you know. But there's one thing that that caused me an issue. Basically,
Sure.
when I do those festivals, the main question is, do you have a shop or where are you
Right.
based, right? I'm like, I don't have a shop. I run my business from home and I'm based in Reading. So people are, they don't say it, but their question basically is like, if you're in Reading, why are you here? Because my products cannot be delivered or posted because they're too delicate, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's why I haven't done that well, because people would say, oh, well, if I can't have your product, then I'm not going to try. So I'm really thinking about creating a range of product that could be posted, like maybe some posh cake jars or something, or I don't know, but I would like, honestly, to be able to post those macarons, like a cute box of 10 and just, post it.
Yeah.
And it would make sense if I do those festivals in Birmingham. Like, some people, they still message me on social media and ask, oh, when are you coming back to Birmingham or to wherever? So yeah, that would be something I'm thinking about, like how to get my product to the customers.
Yeah.
But for now, I want to focus on my area and make my my support happy, basically.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. Outside of kind of like Reading,
yes.
What kind of towns and cities have been most responsive to the kind of work you do?
Maidenhead.
Yeah.
Yes. Maidenhead is, I have been the most how do you say, it was a great always a great market there. I can't really think like right now, but I can only think of Maidenhead, basically. Yeah. Reading and Maidenhead, for me, I've got a good response.
Sure.
Yeah. And London as well. Even Birmingham, they were very receptive.
Yeah.
I think in the north, they're really, really friendly.
Right. Friendlier than down south.
Yeah. No, I really liked going. And I'd love to do something in Manchester or Leeds, as well, or Scotland. I don't know. But
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think you'd ever kind of return to Paris to kind of showcase what you do?
I already did.
Did you?
Yes. So It was a year ago.
Right.
In December. December last year, I did Paris Vegan Festival.
Oh wow.
Yes. So it was amazing. So yes, I went there and we did the festival and I sold out all my cakes. And for me, it was nice because it was like a validation from the French.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
But it was the same problem. Like people were like, "Oh, you're from England, but how will I ever get you eat your cake
again? How can I eat this again?"
Yeah, exactly.
I can imagine that's always going to be like a challenge if you haven't got like a postal service or like you say, like a shop or whatever. So you mentioned like Cowspiracy was kind of the starting point, going back to your kind of like your journey into veganism. And then later you talked about the kind of animal welfare side of things. Was it the environment that kind of like is probably that overarching kind of reason that you switched to veganism, or was it kind of a bit of everything really at this point?
Honestly, it's a bit of everything. Like the thing I tell people is like, I didn't become vegan overnight, okay? Like some people, they watch something and they say, okay, tomorrow I'm vegan.
Yeah.
But for me, that was different. It's hard for me to say, oh, I'm vegan for 3 years, 4 years, 2 years.
Yeah.
Because it was gradually.
Sure.
You know? Sure. Like if you don't eat meat or fish during 4 months, and then after 4 months you eat one thing, wow, does that make you less vegan?
Do you reset the clock or?
Yeah. How does that work? So for me, it's very difficult to answer this part. But I can just say, it went just gradually, So first was not the meat, but the dairy.
Yeah.
So, but most vegan will say, "Oh, I gave up the meat. I went vegetarian, and then I still ate eggs, and then like this." But for me, it was first the dairy, then the meat, then the eggs, and then the fish.
Right.
Like
fish
so
the fish was kind of last.
Yes, the fish is the last.
Interesting.
It's the same thing I said about compassion.
Sure.
Yeah, like I honestly was saying I didn't feel the same for a dog or a cow than for a fish or a prawn.
Yeah.
It's difficult to have the same feelings. But then you do this work of research again on the how to say, the life in the water, the marine life, and why it's bad to eat. Well, I don't like to say that. Like why we have to stop eating fish.
Yeah.
And there's so many reasons. It's not big. Okay, so first, fish has when you watch those documentaries, you're like, oh, okay, fish are animals. It's just they live in the water. Okay, they're just ignored. But if it's about the compassion that you don't have, at least if you have compassion for yourself, then you don't want to pollute your body.
Sure.
I mean, there's a lot of people who don't care about the feelings of a fish or something, but they will maybe at least care of themselves.
Yes.
And say, oh, but a fish has plastic now, so if I eat the fish, then I'm eating plastic. So at least, I mean, there's so many arguments. So many reasons that goes in our way.
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned that about that kind of like if you kind of don't have that natural connection with the animals or the environment, you kind of at least maybe you have that connection with yourself. And I think if you see things go in spikes, right? So when something kind of comes out, like Game Changers has just come out, and so I've had a lot of conversations with people since that, kind of non-vegan folk that I hang out with, who perhaps the animal message that maybe I've been trying to perpetuate with them, or perhaps the environmental message hasn't resonated. But seeing a sports person who they admire, they hold up in kind of great regard, doing that, taking on that lifestyle, has suddenly kind of made them think, oh, maybe I do need to think about a more plant-based diet. So do you see, like in your line of work, you're like on the kind of like the one of the front lines, if you like, where there's like a pocket of like the vegan community out in force in a high street, and do you see a lot more kind of interest from like the passerby, the non-vegan folk, almost off the back of a documentary like Game Changers? Is there kind of a bit more noise about it after that, do you find?
I haven't talked to people about Game Changer, which I've seen, by the way.
Yeah.
But I can see when I'm doing the markets that more and more people are always interested, like, oh, how do you make whatever, like let's say, how do you make meringue without eggs?
Right.
Like for me, it's natural, obviously, because I've been doing as every day, but for
you, that's just how I make meringue.
Yeah, exactly. But people, they are more and more interested because now they can't ignore. We used to say the word vegan and it didn't mean anything to anyone. Sure. Like me first, okay? Like I remember as a young pastry chef, my boss lady was making a beetroot cake without eggs, and I was like, "What are you doing?" Like,
why are you doing that?
Like, I couldn't imagine having a cappuccino with soya. No.
Yeah.
But it's becoming natural now. Everybody knows what is a vegan, and especially in UK, there's always vegan options. I mean, if you're lucky, loads of vegan options.
Yeah.
And people will be interested for any reason, but I don't think there's a good or bad reason. Like if you're vegan because you want to be healthier, then fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sure. I think like people's entry point is often different, but I tend to find as they go through the journey, we sort of all kind of converge. Like my entry point, very similar to you actually, was like I watched Cowspiracy. For me, it was like the day after. I was like, "That's it. I'm not doing that anymore. I don't want to be part of that." I'd thought of myself as, I'm a bit of an environmentalist, and then watched that and thought, "Oh, I'm really not." And I hadn't. It sounds terrible now, but at the time, I hadn't really thought about the animal welfare side of things, and certainly not dairy and eggs. I'd naturally assumed, well, they're okay because nothing dies. Nothing dies in those industries, does it? And then you sort of like, as you go down that kind of rabbit hole and you find out more and more, you sort of then find out, actually, I'm not okay with the animal welfare stuff either. And actually, like the health stuff, like I'm not okay with that either. If this decreases my chance of, heart attacks and all the rest of this stuff, then so I kind of find people's entry points might be different, and that's cool. We've just got like somebody wants to go because they want to be like Lewis Hamilton or Novak Djokovic, then go for it. That's fine, but they'll probably eventually find out that they don't want to, they don't want to harm the environment as well. I don't know. That's what I tend to think about it. Like, I agree with you. The entry point doesn't really matter.
Exactly. I mean, there's so many reasons of why you don't eat things, but like, I can't. If you're eating eggs in front of me, I won't say you anything.
Yes.
Because like I wasn't raised as vegan. I was a proper meat eater. So who am I to tell you what you should eat or not?
Yeah.
Like some people, maybe they say that I'm not an activist, but actually I am because of what I'm doing, because this is what I do every day. And it's my way to do my part.
Yeah, like making beautiful cakes for people is a form of activism. I've definitely learned that throughout this, like the process of doing these podcasts is like, I definitely had this idea of activism as like holding a placard and like,
me too.
Going to a protest. And I've kind of slowly learned that activism isn't that. No. It can be that. But it's not exclusively that.
You know what I say to people? I used to say, I don't do it anymore because I used to say, I'm not an extreme vegan. I'm not on the street and make people watch cows suffering.
Yeah.
But I'm still an activist in my way.
Yeah.
So
I think anything that makes anybody question something, and even if it is, I'm eating this egg custard tart. How was this made? I really like it. It tastes no different, if not better than the one that I had 2 weeks ago, whatever. Why is it like this? How is it like this? Or even somebody coming up to you and saying, well, why do you do what you do? Or whatever questions you might get when you're kind of selling a cake. That's all part of it, isn't it? Like if it makes somebody go home and question, but like, I was describing to you earlier, like buying a bunch of your kind of custard tarts and then taking them to a group of other people, it starts a conversation. It
does, and but really, like now that you say that, I just remember something. Like even in my own family,
sure,
they didn't understand because, like, I remember I had to bake for my family. There was this party. And I was like, oh, do you need some cake? La la, I can make a lot. And basically she said, we don't want your vegan cake.
Oh, really?
So that was really hurtful.
Yeah, I bet it was.
But obviously now they're very proud and they have tasted and they was like, oh wow, it's like basically I've got natural talent.
Yeah.
But even in your own family, the people you love, it can be hard sometimes.
Yeah. And did your family, when you first, well, I suppose like you said, it was a bit of a transition really, but as they started to notice, like, how did they react to you sort of turning vegan?
Not really. They don't really care,
Yeah.
If you're happy, then that's fine.
They were cool with it.
Yeah. They're cool.
It didn't disrupt too many of those kind of
No, because my sister-in-law, she's vegetarian.
Sure.
and like she was for a long time before me, so they
Right.
got used to it.
They were used to that.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody eating something different at the dinner table.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, and also my grandmother is vegetarian.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yes. So she hasn't eaten meat for like 25 years.
Sure.
So when I told her, she was happy. You know?
Well,
like,
that's really
she was like,
cool.
oh, you do. You know.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And I bet she's a massive fan of your cakes.
Well, she's very old, you know, so
Yeah.
she didn't eat much. But
Yeah. Cool.
but yeah, she's proud.
I bet. So have you found that kind of over the last couple of years, have you kept in contact with kind of like people from your kind of old world back in kind of Paris and so on? Have you found you mentioned it's a very small percentage that are vegan, but is there any kind of shift? Like you mentioned, there was a Paris Vegan Festival, for example.
Yes.
So have you found that like with the rest of kind of, certainly in the UK, we've noticed that shift towards, and there's certainly a lot more conversation about veganism than there used to be. Do you find that's changing in France too?
Well, I know that Paris is known as one of the best cities to be vegan now.
Okay.
You know, like,
Yeah,
you know, when you type, best vegan cities in the world.
Yeah, sure.
You would never have thought of Paris. Okay.
No.
But now Paris is in the top 10.
Wow. I definitely
really
wouldn't
good.
have. Yeah.
But this is only Paris. Okay. Like,
Okay.
when I'm on Facebook, you know, all those groups, if someone say, oh, I'm going to France, I'm like, oh, if you're in Paris, you're fine. But if you're not, good luck.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. I've heard like beyond Paris, it's particularly like more
well,
sort of
Paris
rural
and
areas.
the major cities, let's say,
Sure.
you know, Marseille, Lyon, Toulouse, Bordeaux, it's fine. But like on the countryside, if you say you're a vegetarian, they'll still give you fish.
Right. Okay. So the idea of like you might have to explain a little bit about what exactly you mean.
But there is definitely more interest, and also because the rise of the plant-based the alternative meat, you know,
Yes.
it has helped a lot as well.
Well, I suppose like a bit like with sweet things, I think like if people have meat alternatives and kind of sweet things, they get some nice dessert and some cake and so on.
Yeah.
I think they tend to be a little less resistant.
But you can see the change simply by going to the supermarket.
Okay.
You know, when you go to the supermarket and you see the vegetarian area, like is bigger than ever.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
It's not only like a vegetarian, but all the healthy side as well. You know, like organic, local. Well, not local, not really, because it's still everybody is still working on it.
Sure.
And also us in UK, but there is definitely interest, like a lot.
Yeah. And how optimistic are you around our kind of like ultimate
for France?
Yeah, well, I suppose France, but kind of for the world generally, you know, in terms of us like getting to this vision of like a vegan world.
Well, it's a tricky question. I would say it's not very optimistic because I think we won't have the choice, basically.
Right.
We won't have the choice but to be vegan because there'll be no water,
environmentally,
like no honey anymore, no bees. We won't have the choice but to be vegan.
Yeah.
You know, I think honestly, I spend my days because, you know, the good thing about cooking is like you can watch stuff at the same time. And I keep watching those shows over and over again, and it just says like there's no water anymore, there's no bees, the pollution and the plastic and blah blah blah. So honestly, it's just I think we won't have the choice but to be vegan to survive. Yeah, you know, like I know some people who say, "Oh, I'm eating meat because I know that in 50 years there won't be any meat anymore."
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think you may be right that we may get there, but we may get there out of less out of choice and kind of more out of necessity. Yeah, it would be as much as I'd prefer it if people kind of made that decision logically.
Yeah, I think like it's going to be hard for the population to decide themselves to become vegan.
Yeah,
and that's why the companies industrial have well understood and that's how they make money, because they focus this part of the population who have not given up on meat yet. Those who, what we call the flexitarians.
Yes.
And that's why they're making a lot of money, because those people, they know they have to reduce meat, but they still want to enjoy a bit.
Yeah.
And also the rise of the plant-based alternative meat is so high. Like, have you ever tried the Beyond Meat burger?
Yeah.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, you almost question, are you absolutely sure?
Yeah, I had to ask the waitress, like, are you sure you didn't? I
haven't mixed my order.
There was 4 guys at the table. I made them all try. One of them say, "Oh no, it's meat."
It's almost scary.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
So, but the other side is, what is it made from? And even the way as people ask me when I do my cakes, what do you use? Oh, you use margarine. Oh, but margarine is palm oil, and not really. It's not a real ingredients. So it's a lot. There's a lot of debate.
Yeah.
From
Absolutely.
Anything.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. There's I think with it, whenever you kind of like you go away from any kind of the norm, if you like, you almost open up more questions than you do answer, sort of thing. Like you say, what are you making? It makes people skeptical. Like, what are you making this cake out of? That must be bad too, right? And obviously, there's palm oil and all the other kind of debates and discussions, but there's definitely that, almost this distrust. Like, people are quite prepared to kind of eat meat that may be full of antibiotics and all kinds of other kind of supplements and so on and so forth, but are nervous to eat something that is a kind of meat substitute that's soya based.
Exactly.
Because it's different. It's not the norm. So everything in that space kind of challenges, doesn't it? Where people's kind of accepted reality.
It's like I don't say the milk. I have a friend who will say, "Oh, I'd rather eat like an ice cream full fat milk." Than an ice cream vegan plant-based, okay?
Yes,
but made of, I don't know, stuff that you can't even read.
Yeah. I think the marketing is so effective, almost, particularly around like dairy, that there's this kind of like, you see milk trucks go past, right, with this kind of like idyllic scene of like a couple of cows grazing in this field, and ironically, sometimes they're sat there with a calf as well, and you think, well, that calf's clearly not getting the milk, is it? Because it's in the truck. So that is so effective, that marketing. You see it with kind of egg companies as well, that you like kind of Happy Egg and so on and so forth. Like this idea that these chickens are like, it's just a natural byproduct, and it's that disassociation. It's really not, and yet people are so almost nervous of soaking some oats in water and creating a kind of an oat milk, in inverted commas, if you like. It's fascinating how deep goes right back to almost our childhood, doesn't it? What we're brought up with, the images we see,
But many people are now doing some research about how to feed the planet. I've seen some people, they do burgers from insects, for example.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, like it's not vegan, but they say it's ecological and rich of protein and blah blah blah. So there are creative people on this planet, I believe. But I really think I don't know which ideal world is gonna be or not. But I know that the meat is no. Actually, there was one question that I wondered is how can the meat I don't know how to say that. You might have to edit.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
But like the meat demand
yeah.
is higher than ever.
Yeah.
But at the same time, veganism is growing.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, why is the meat is still growing and growing up? Like, for example, France have signed something with Canada, you know. Have you heard about it's called CETA? So basically they're going to send hormone beef to France for cheaper.
Right.
Yeah. So beef grown in Canada with hormones and really I don't know how they feed their beef. It's going to be sent to Canada. But like because the demand for meat is higher than ever. But why is it so high? Whereas veganism is growing.
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
It's a fascinating subject, and there'd definitely be smarter people than me, I think.
Is it because we are more and more people?
Maybe. And I think maybe like the world's in an interesting place. Like it's quite a divisive kind of world right now, right? So as much as, and I think you see this like online, I'm sure you have as well, like the more you see posts about veganism, the more you see people kind of actively rejecting and almost going the other way. And I think we are kind of like in such a divisive place almost that people want to polarize themselves and that almost associate themselves as far removed from veganism as they possibly can. I think maybe that plays a small part. I think there's also the marketing around meat, protein, kind of it's almost this kind of like attachment to some sort of strange sense of masculinity. I think there's all kinds of those things going on. And we've kind of, we've almost been, I think society seems to have been marketed out over the last kind of, few decades probably, that the idea of eating meat 3 times a day is quite a normal thing to do, which even if whether you're vegan or not, if you go back, back through history, this idea of like the caveman diet.
Yes.
Like a caveman wasn't eating meat 3 times a day. They would generally probably actually not a hunter, but more of a gatherer, and probably occasionally came across an animal that they could hunt, which wouldn't have been 3 times a day. But there's this whole like paleo kind of caveman, and that's all attached to this kind of almost this men's health notion of like masculinity and all that kind of stuff. Plus the divisiveness. I think there's so much at play. It feels a bit like, to me, like, when you read in history, like the sort of the death throes of the cigarette industry, like almost when the cigarette industry kind of knew that the writing was on the wall, that people were starting to shift their thinking. They started to realize actually smoking's not very good for you. That almost in that period it made the tobacco industry double down on some of the messages. They started to buy in the doctors at that point to say, no, smoking's great. If you've got a chest infection, get yourself 20 cigarettes, like that kind of marketing almost doubled down. And I wonder whether and it was effective for a period of time at holding off the kind of tide. I wonder if there's an element of that, like there's the meat industry, dairy industries, and perhaps in league with governments, are trying to hold back the tide. You see it with governments in policy now, like especially as we come up to an election, particularly even on sort of I don't say the left side, because I don't think they necessarily are left, but if you take like a Labour kind of manifesto, they're desperate to protect the idea of farming and animal agriculture in amongst this message of environmentalism. And you think, well, hang on, there's a disconnect there. So it does feel like almost the death throes of the animal agriculture, pardon the pun, because it feels quite relevant, but of the animal agriculture industry. But that's just my take on it. I don't know. Smarter people than me.
Yeah, maybe.
I've got moving back to cake finally, because I've got one kind of like final question for you, Celine. So there's lots of people I speak to who like particularly actually like just this time of year, so like post Bake Off, right? So the Great British Bake Off is a massive.
Is it over now?
It's over now, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a massive thing in British culture.
Yeah. In France too.
Is it?
It's basically the same show, the same colors.
Is it?
The same,
Do
trailer.
They have a tent and everything?
Like I found out this on YouTube. Like when I was typing British Bake Off, I was like, oh my god, this is the same as in France. Who copied who?
So they have a great French Bake Off.
yes, it's called translated. It is like the best pastry chef, basically.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Is it better though? Are they like this? Is
I don't know.
I suppose none of it's vegan, so it's not.
You know, to be very honest, I don't have TV,
Right.
So
It's
I only
probably-
watched like the very first episode of
Yeah,
like the
just
first
to see what
season
it's
of
about.
the British one.
Yeah.
But I used to follow the French one a
Yeah.
lot.
So I speak to loads of
yeah,
people who kind of are like really into it, like whether it's kind of like day-to-day life, friends, family, etc. And lots of kind of budding bakers around. Like if and for some people, they kind of, I've even heard people say, I could never go vegan because I couldn't make the cakes that I want to make. You know, what would be like your number one piece of advice, like top tip for those people?
Well, first I would say I can make the cake for you.
That's a better idea. Yeah, do that. Buy it from you.
And like I know this way, he or she won't be disappointed. But like no, like you can make a vegan cake, and there's so many recipes. Even BBC, they give a lot of vegan recipes on their website. So
Get out there and try it. Don't be scared of it.
Yeah, like try. Well, don't try make your custard tart.
I wouldn't even attempt it. I'd just buy it from you.
No, but definitely more. A lot of people want to get involved.
Yeah,
You know, it's good.
well, hopefully they will be learning kind of a great French patisserie from you when you set up your patisserie school.
Well, my dream, like as every baker, is to open my shop one day. So let's see.
Well, if we don't see you there soon, well, at least we'll see you at our kind of local vegan market.
Yes, I always do. I'm now at the Reading Farmers Market.
Amazing.
Often. So
Excellent. And where can we find you next? So
well, next, what I'm doing. So I do my afternoon tea monthly. You know? So the next one is on Sunday.
Yeah.
But it's fully booked. I'm advertising the Christmas one tomorrow. But I'm doing the Reading Farmers Market twice a month, and also in December there'll be the second Reading Green Market in Market House. Yeah. And it's going to be like a Christmassy one. So
really cool.
I'll have loads of beautiful cakes. But mostly I always tell people that I bake to order. It's easier, you know, like they want a cake, they order and they come to collect or pick up. It's easy.
Very cool. And you're on social media?
Always,
website?
Mostly Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
I've tried Twitter, but I don't know. There's something is becoming too hard.
Yeah.
Like 3 at the like Facebook and Instagram is already like it takes time, you know, to do social media. But mostly, I would say mostly Instagram because it's just like pictures.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll.
And what's your Instagram handle?
Hashtag Cocolico.
Excellent. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, James.
Thanks, Celine. Bye now.